Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the After the Whistle podcast, and I am your host, Owen Tomko. Today we'll be going through the Week 10 college football playoff schedule, and I do have a script this time. Not saying that I haven't been prepared for what I'm going into in the other videos. I was literally just scrolling down through the schedule and clicking on good games and trying to explain them. So here I kind of have a little basis of what I'm doing. So if I'm looking down here and I'm looking down there, there's my computer. Here are my notes. I'm going to be running, there's 7 games I think I'm going to get to. I'm going to try and do it under 15 minutes. There's 7 games I'm going to try and get to, and I'm going to try and do it in 2 minutes a pop, 2 minutes a game, and then I do have a hot take at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But alright, we'll just hop right into it. Starting off with number 4 Ohio State traveling to Michigan State. Ohio State enters the game number 4 in the country and 4-0, while Michigan State enters the game unranked at 2-3. The over-under this game is 59.5. I will take the over. Big Ten games are always a high-scoring game, and knowing Ohio State, they could put up 35, and I expect Michigan State to put up some points. The spread is 24 in favor of Ohio State. I don't know. I do like that. I think Michigan State has been one of those teams that you put a 24-point spread on, especially against Ohio State, who is a very, very good team. But I want to say Michigan State does cover. I think it is a game that Ohio State could completely blow them out, and it's not even close. But I think it could be a very good game in Michigan State's favor. With that being said, your starting quarterback for the Michigan State Spartans is Rocky Lombardi. I don't know if he has any correlation to the famous Vince Lombardi, the Lombardi Trophy and stuff like that. But yeah, his name is Rocky Lombardi, so that's pretty cool. He's been solid this year. Hasn't thrown for many yards, only thrown for like 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Compared to Justin Fields, who's played pretty good, considering he's only played 4 games. He's thrown for 1,200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, or 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, sorry. Master Teague is the leading rusher for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Hayward is the leading rusher for the Michigan State Spartans. High-scoring game, very interesting stat lines, and I think it'll be a very, very good game. Okay, so, like I said, that was a quick 2 minutes, right? Okay, we're jumping right back in. We're going into the Oklahoma State TCU game. Oklahoma State enters this game 6-2, number 15 in the country. They're taking on a unranked 4-4 TCU team. It'll be an interesting game. Over-under is 51.5 over. It's a Big 12 game. There's not going to be much defense in there. I think each team could put up 35 plus more. So I would take the hard over. You have Oklahoma State favored by 2 in this game, which is pretty interesting for a ranked team who has 2 more wins than their opponent. But TCU has not played particularly bad this year by any means. They lost a very not so close game to West Virginia 2 weeks ago. They lost to University of Oklahoma by 19 back in October. But I do think you got to keep this game on your radar. I think TCU can pull off the upset in this game. I think all they got to really do is stop the run. Chuba Hubbard is their leading rusher, who was a Heisman candidate to start the year, but since then really hasn't produced and hasn't shown up. I think TCU's passing attack will get it done. I don't expect them to do very much on the ground, even though they do have a very good running back, and it's actually their quarterback. Their quarterback is their leading rusher. I think he ran triple option when he was in high school, so they're utilizing him in a lot of zone reads and a lot of option plays, which is kind of what you do with an option quarterback, right? But yeah, I would take TCU in this game. So TCU would cover. I would take the over as well. So on to our next game. We are going to West Virginia. The West Virginia Mountaineers taking on the number 9 ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State comes into this game 7-2 to West Virginia's 5-3. This game more than likely will have implications on the Big 12 championship game. West Virginia is still in that race, as well as Iowa State. I think Iowa State is a lock into that playoff or into that championship game, like I said in my last video, but I don't know. The over/under is 49.5 over. Once again, it's another Big 12 game. Iowa State is a high-powered offense. West Virginia can put up points. The spread is 6.5 Iowa State. I do like West Virginia. West Virginia, they're pretty similar teams. Iowa State does give up more yards allowed on the year. West Virginia lost a close one 2 weeks ago to number 22 Texas at the time, and they lost a few weeks before that to Texas Tech. In between those games, they did beat a ranked Kansas State team 37-10. So I think West Virginia really has an opportunity for an upset in this game. It wouldn't be a big one. I mean, actually, it would really be a big one because Iowa State is ranked 9 in the country. So, yeah, I would take... I think it's a close game. West Virginia does have an upset potential, but I think Iowa State will hold on to the game. I think their offense is too high-powered. Brock Purdy's going to throw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or something like that. And I just don't think West Virginia can keep up. I would take Iowa State to win and Iowa State to cover because I think they win. Iowa State wins by a touchdown in that game. On to our next game. We have the number 12 ranked Indiana Hoosiers taking on the number 16 Wisconsin Badgers at Camp Randall, which is where the Wisconsin Badgers do play football. The over-under this game is 45. High-scoring game. So I would take the over as well. The spread is actually 13.5 Wisconsin. And the reason that is 13.5 for Wisconsin is because Indiana's quarterback, Penix Jr., he tore his ACL last week and is now out for the season. So Indiana is going to come into this game playing a backup quarterback against an okay Wisconsin Badgers team. Oh, I forgot to say their records. Indiana comes into this game ranked number 12 in the country at 5-1, and Wisconsin comes into this game number 16 at 2-1. But he is out. Penix Jr., Indiana's starting quarterback, is out with an ACL injury for the remainder of the season. So with that being said, I will take Wisconsin in this game. Even though Wisconsin hasn't really shown much in the 3 games that they've played, we haven't seen anything from this backup quarterback for Indiana. So he could be the greatest quarterback or he could be terrible. I mean, you don't know. But that's kind of... It'll be an interesting game. I think Wisconsin, since Wisconsin is favored, I do think Wisconsin wins. They're coming off a heartbreaking loss to ranked Northwestern last week, 17-7. I think they're going to come back with vengeance, and they're going to want blood. So I do think Wisconsin will win this game. I think their offense is going to put up a ton of yards and a ton of points against this Indiana team, who played well 2 weeks ago against Ohio State and lost by 7. But I don't think it'll be enough. So I have Wisconsin, and I have Wisconsin covering. Actually, no, I have Indiana covering. I have it being a 1-score game. On to our next game. We have BYU, Coastal Carolina. That game was actually supposed to be Coastal Carolina and Liberty. But Liberty had COVID cases, so they canceled that game. And they've scheduled BYU, which is a pretty big opponent for Coastal Carolina. But it's a big opponent for BYU too. BYU comes into this game ranked 13th in the country at 9-0, and Coastal Carolina comes in 18th in the country at 9-0. The over/under is 61.5. I don't want to take the over on every single game because I do believe they could take the over, but I'm going to take the over. BYU is just a high-powered offense. Zach Wilson can throw the ball all over the place, and he can run too. So I would take the over. The spread is BYU by 11. I think I would take... I would take Coastal Carolina does cover in this game. I think it's a low one score game. BYU is just going to throw for 1,000,000 yards. Zach Wilson's unbelievable. But you can't overlook Coastal Carolina's quarterback. He's a true freshman, I do believe. He's had a pretty good season. He's had 1,800 yards, 20 touchdowns to 1 interception. Mind you, none of these teams, they are 9-0 apiece, and they have not beat a Power 5 opponent. A Power 5 opponent is like the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and Pac-12. They have not beaten one of those teams. So it'll be a big test for both teams against two really, I mean, they're both pretty good teams. I mean, they're respected 9-0s. So, yeah, I do think BYU does win this game. It's at Coastal Carolina, and that is where game day is this week. So that'll be interesting. But the next game we're going to move on to is the UCLA Arizona State game. That is a little Pac-12 action for you. And UCLA comes into this game unranked at 2-2, and Arizona State comes into this game unranked at 0-1. So both teams, they have combined for 5 games. Arizona State, I think, has some scheduling problems, cancellations, and stuff like that. Their one loss is to USC, a heartbreaking defeat. USC came back in the final minute and won that game, which is pretty unbelievable because USC has 2 fourth quarter comebacks late in that game or in the season. But the over-under in this game is 55.5. I don't see it being a high-scoring game. Even though it's a Pac-12 game, I say that about every conference, but even though it's a Pac-12 game, I think it's going to I think you're going to have to take the under on this game. I think it's a really, really low-scoring game, and the spread is 3 for Arizona State. Arizona State's key to this game is they have to throw the ball better. I mean, they had, in their one game that they played, they only threw for 131 yards. They did rush for 258 yards. So I think you just have to balance that out. Hit UCLA with some things you haven't seen before. And I very well could see Arizona State winning by 7. I would say it's a 24-17 game. A 24-21 game, Arizona State. I think Arizona State just gets a lead and then they run the football like they did against SC. Even though they weren't able to pull out that victory, I do believe they can pull it out against UCLA. On to the final game of the episode. We are going to have the Oregon State Beavers against the Utah Utes. Oregon State comes into this game unranked at 2-2 on the year, and Utah comes into this game not ranked. Sorry, they are not ranked. They are 0-2. Over under this game is 51.5. Take the hard over on this game. I think I picked the over in every single one of these games. But I think it's respectable because every single one of these teams I've named can easily put up points and put points against each other because they don't necessarily have the greatest defenses, the teams that I said, but as always, the Big 12 has no defense. So the spread is 11.5 in favor of Utah. I don't see that happening. I want to take an upset here, and that's Oregon State. I think Oregon State's coming off such a high against beating Oregon last week, 41-38, late in that game. That was a very, very good win for Oregon State. They're coming off. They have a 2-game win streak coming off. They played Cal a week before Oregon and beat them. Then they went to I think they went to Oregon and beat Oregon. Utah, they're coming off 2 losses, one to SC and one to Washington. So I just don't see this Utah team hanging. I don't see this Utah team beating Oregon State. I think Oregon State, even though they are underdogs by 11.5, I do think they win by. I think they win by a touchdown. I think they win by 10 points. I just don't think. I don't think you can stop Oregon State on how high they've been coming off these 2 wins, 2 big wins actually. So I would take Oregon State by 10. I would say 31-21 is the final score in that game. Mind you, they are going to Utah. I don't think it matters, but that's that. So that is it for the slate of games that I went through. There's not really a good slate of games this week. I kind of went through and looked, and didn't really see much that I liked. I think one other game that I'm not going to get to is the Washington-Stanford game. I think that's a very good game, but I'm not going to go into that. Okay, it's time for the hot take of the week. So this might upset a couple people just because, I like picking upsets, but I don't like picking upsets when they're unreasonable. And the upset that I picked, Auburn over Alabama last week, was completely unreasonable. I wanted Auburn to win. It wasn't what I was thinking was going to happen. I wanted Auburn to win. So that was a little biased in my opinion on my part, so I apologize for that. I said I was going to try and be as unbiased as possible. But the hot take of the week, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying it has a possibility of happening. I'm going to say Michigan State upsets Ohio State. And I know you're thinking, oh, well, they're not ranked. Michigan State's not ranked, and Ohio State's ranked 4th. Yes, I understand that. But the reason for that is because Michigan State's 2 wins, they're 2-3. Their 2 wins have been against top 15 opponents. And at the time, by the way, number 8 Northwestern, who they beat last week, I do believe. And then they beat number 13 Michigan 3 weeks ago or so. Michigan's not good by any stretch of the imagination. Don't get me wrong on that. They shouldn't have been ranked 13. Northwestern, they're pretty good. Northwestern is a team that has played very, very good football. So I wouldn't count Michigan State out of this game. The keys to this game for Michigan State is they have to force turnovers. That's the only way you beat a good team like Ohio State is make them make mistakes, and you have to capitalize on them. Indiana forced 3 or 4 turnovers against Ohio State last week or the week before, and I think they scored maybe 7 points off 4 turnovers. You can't do that. You have to capitalize on all your turnovers. You have to throw the ball well. They've been throwing the ball pretty well this year. Rocky Lombardi's played decent in 5 games. I think he's thrown for like 245 yards a game. You got to up that up to, you got to throw for at least 330 yards this game, and you have to throw for like 3 or 4 touchdowns. And on the defensive side of the ball, they have to stop the run. That's Ohio State's biggest weapon is their running game. Master Teague is a formidable opponent, especially against a young Michigan State defense. But the keys to the game for Ohio State is they have to get after the quarterback. Make Rocky Lombardi make mistakes. And he's young, I think. I think he's a sophomore. Maybe he's a junior. I don't know. But you got to make him make mistakes. That's my next bullet point here is force turnovers against this young offense. Make them make mistakes, like I've been saying. And you got to capitalize on them again. You can't take turnovers. You can't force turnovers and not score. You're not going to win games like that. And the biggest thing for them is they have to run the ball efficiently. They are a really good really good run offense, and I just think they got to keep to it. They got to keep running, and they got to keep doing what they've been doing well. So that's my hot take of the week. I very well could be wrong. Ohio State could blow them out. I don't know. That's in the realm of possibilities, but don't sleep on Michigan State, okay? But that's going to be it for the episode, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you liked this video. I'm going to be coming out with another video tomorrow. So that'll be 3 straight videos in 3 straight days. So these are always fun to record, and I appreciate everybody who watches them. And thank you for all the support, the likes, the comments. Even though, that's not what it's about. It's about having fun and sharing your knowledge with everybody else. So I appreciate all that, and expect a video tomorrow for the NFL. So I did run, 4 minutes, 5 minutes over time. I tried to go to 15 was my goal, but I did cut it down because I know you guys said you guys want shorter videos. So I did that. I tried to stick to the schedule. I didn't stick to my 2-minute thing, and now I'm running way over. So I apologize for that, but thanks guys for watching. Appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.